Coming to the final session of the webinar series, we have with us Dr. Gopal Krishna Thakur from Mahatma Gandhi Antarrashtriya Hindi Vishwavidyalaya, Central University, Wardha, Maharashtra. Before we begin the session, I, Dr. Ansari from Bombay Teachers Training College, take this opportunity and it's my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Thakur, Head, Department of Education, Mahatma Gandhi Antarrashtriya Hindi Vishwavidyalaya. Sir had done BSc Honors MSc Chemistry from TNB College, Bhagalpur. He did MBA in Human Resource Management, PGDIM, PGDHRM from IGNOU, B.Ed, M.Ed, MPhil in Education from Delhi University, and PhD in Education from Jamia Millia Islamia, Central University, New Delhi. Dr. Thakur has 26 years of teaching experience, 20 years of research experience, and 15 years of administrative experience. Earlier position, Principal of Mangalmay Institute of Management and Technology, Greater Noida from 2003 to 2011. In 2012, Sir took the charge of Council for Social Development as Education Specialist. In 2013, Sir became the Dean, School of Education, Lingyas University, Faridabad. In 2014, Dr. Thakur took the charge of Director, School of Education, Noida International University. Also, Sir was Chairman for Social Development and Research Foundation. Further, in 2016, Sir acted as Proctor of Mahatma Gandhi Antarrashtriya Hindi Vishwavidyalaya. At present, Dr. Thakur, Head, Department of Education, Mahatma Gandhi Antarrashtriya Hindi Vishwavidyalaya, and he is also Member, Academic Council, Member, School Board Education, Northern Eastern Hill University, Shillong, Chairperson, Board of Studies, Department of Education, Advisor, Gender Sensitization Cell, Associate Director, Teaching Learning Center for Hindi Studies, Project Head, SOE, Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya Mission on Teachers and Teaching, MHRD, Government of India. Dr. Thakur's research interest areas like science education, teacher education, educational philosophy, ethnographic studies, phenomenological studies. Sir had completed 2 projects and 3 projects are still undergoing. Dr. Thakur has represented number of research papers at international and national level. He is also a member of Indian Association of Teacher Educators and All India Association of Educational Research, and still many more achievements and accomplishments. Sir is going to speak on the topic academic writing. Thank you, and over to you, sir. Dr. Thakur.
Many thanks, Dr. Ansari.
Thank you, sir.
For this such a lengthy introduction, which was not at all desired. And I feel overburdened with the kind of introduction that you have given that poses immense responsibility on me to do justice with this session. I don't know how far I would be able to do that. But first of all, I would like to express my deep sense of gratitude to Professor Shefali Pandya, Department of Education, University of Mumbai, and Dr. Balani from Bombay Teachers Training College for inviting me to speak in this webinar, which has so far have had long and very, very enriching experience to its participants, I'm sure. Well, and dear all participants, now since probably you have been listening to profound speakers on different subjects during all through these webinars, this session comes to the end of this seminar on research methodology and different domains of research, different aspects of research that you have learned through the series of lectures and presentations. Now this academic writing, when this was I was asked to speak on this, I was asked to discuss about this, so I was just wondering whether online session would be beneficial or not to present this theme of any research activities, but we are. Rather, the whole world is grappling nowadays with this corona pandemic, and we have to face this. We have to keep up our zeal of doing good things and getting involved in good things. So anyways, academic writing is something that we are going to discuss in this session. Writing is like one of the main human endeavors since the time immemorial. Right since the human civilization, when the human minds started expressing their thoughts, expressing their feelings, expressing their experiences, writing came as the major means to provide a platform to express the feelings, emotions, sentiments, experiences of human beings and of all possible creatures about whom human beings started writing. So there are different kinds of writing. There is one term that we, all of you are aware, creative writing, then are just journalistic writing. Then like journalistic writing, we write in newspapers. Creative writing, we write script, we write like satire, we write stories, novels, and many types of writings that we do. Then what this is academic writing all about and why this is needed? So let us begin with a few quotations, a few statements given about academic writings. On the next slide, we can see this. What is academic writing? So primarily, any writing done to fulfill the requirement of a college or university in forms of dissertation, thesis, project reports, etc., or a research paper, concept paper, books, monographs, etc. All of us know when we join academic institutions, there are certain requirements of our degree. In certain degree, like postgraduate degrees have project reports to be completed and a report to be submitted for the award of the degree. We have MPhil degree. So there are many universities. I don't know about state universities. Some of your state universities might be offering, but otherwise in central universities, we have MPhil, we have PhD degree, where these kinds of writing are prerequisite for the degree that we pursue for. So for a dissertation or for a thesis or a research report, project report, we need to write on any of the project that we have undertaken and produce after all the research procedures that we carry out. A part of that, those research projects involve, and the major part involved research methodology, different types of research methodologies. And you have come across now during all these, I guess, last 6 days about various kinds of research methodologies, how we problematize, how we pose research questions, how do we frame research objectives, how do we design our research. Then we take up a research method specific to the kind of research questions or the research objectives that we conceptualize in the beginning of our research project or research studies, be it for MPhil, be it for PhD, be it for anything. And we apply those research methods, techniques. We choose sample, we choose research instruments, we carry out research. And the very last session taken up by Dr. Balani, you have learned how we do inferential analysis. And then we come up with the result of the research, the output, the product. Product is here in the form of our writing, how we produce what we have experienced through our research process. And this kind of writing involves certain specificity. We don't have here scope of writing all our fancies. We don't have here scope of writing any imagination that we keep on doing. So in that term, academic writing is different. Academic writing is different from creative writing. Academic writing is different from writing any novel, any fancy story. The second part, you can see the second dot is given here, a pattern of writing. The pattern of academic writing is something which is used within an academic context using a formal tone and discipline-specific vocabulary. So here, from this, you can infer that for academic writing, you need to use a formal, formal set of vocabulary. And even that vocabulary should have discipline-specific. If you belong to the discipline of education, then you'll have those words which are used in education community as the formal set of words. The tone must be formal. It should not have colloquial set of words or languages or idioms or phrases. So it should have formal set of words. Then another definition comes as this academic writing is a process of writing analytically with a purpose to present information that depicts a clear understanding of a certain subject. So again, we have seen that academic writing involves a formal tone, a discipline-specific set of vocabulary. Then it involves analytical writing. You do in your research analysis of the problem or the sample you choose, the experiment you conduct, or any survey you do, you analyze the data received during the process. And that analysis is expressed through academic writing. And this is written in a way that the readers or your examiners or your peers or whosoever refers to your writing in future for their own research purposes get a clear understanding of what exactly you have written. On the next page, we can see this academic writing is a process of presenting ideas in a rational, organized, systematic, reasonable, and logical way. So it is not something that in academic writing we have scope of presenting our assumptions, our just mere assumptions which we assume without any verification of whether those assumptions are correct or not. No. In academic writing, we have to present our ideas generated through the process of research. And that particular idea or the set of ideas that we are going to present in our academic writing should have the basis of rationality. It should be organized. It should be systematic. It should be reasonable. It should be logical. I could see just one question popping up. I'll answer at the end of this presentation. The second point of this slide differentiates academic writing from fictional writing. Academic writing is not a fiction writing. This is not just a story. So this is a non-fiction writing produced as a part of academic work. Then this academic writing refers to a style of expression that researchers use to define the intellectual boundaries of their disciplines and specific area of expertise. So in a way, we can see that this writing, through this writing, we express our intellectual boundaries. I mean, see, if you are a student of if you are a researcher of education or teacher education, you hardly have any scope of jumping into the domain of other discipline of knowledge. See, for interdisciplinarity, we can, touch a few ideas or notion or concepts of other discipline, But specifically in depth, you are supposed to write in a way that involves the specificity, that involves the set of vocabularies or the terms or the theories or the principles or the processes, methodology about your discipline. So this academic writing is again an expression of our own intellectual boundaries, our own specific areas of expertise. Well, for that, what we need to do is our writing must be clear, concise, focused, structured, and backed up by evidence. You can see here the academic writing should always be based on the evidence. All of you, I don't know about the kind of disciplines you're coming from, but I suppose that all of you, or maybe mostly you are from the discipline of education. So here, I would like to just refer to one main thing, that through our academic writing, we present the kind of knowledge that we have supposedly created. Because this academic writing is a result of the research activity or research studies that we carry out. Through research, what is the purpose of research? Purpose of research is exploration of truth. And why do we explore truth? This truth is a very tricky term. Different academicians, different people have defined this truth in their own ways. In our Indian system, truth is supposed to be permanent, eternal. But when you study Dewey, he says, truth is ever changing. It keeps on changing. So then why do we supposed to explore the truth? Mahatma Gandhi wrote his autobiography is called as his experiment with the truth. What all he experimented with the truth, he stated in his biography. Now this truth paves way to create knowledge. And we, teachers, are into this activities, these endeavors of creating knowledge, redefining knowledge, re-explaining knowledge. And for knowledge, we need to have truth. The famous old definition of knowledge is, it is a justified true belief. So a knowledge is something, a knowledge is your belief, which is true, and it must have justification. And for justification, you must be having solid evidence. And that is what is expected in your academic writing, because by academic writing, only you produce what you have earned or what you have learned. So, I mean, taking up, summarizing all these lines about, yeah, I'll be doing that. Review of related literature I'll be discussing next. So the academic writing should be clear. It should not have boundaries, like you are expressing your lines from moons, from planet Jupiter, and you need to be focused. Or you start writing about what you have actually worked on. You need not discuss about everything of human life, a whole history of human civilization. No, for that there are people who are doing their job excellently. Academic writing is something that your work you have done, and you start with that. You should have very clear words with you to express your ideas. It should be concise. It should not, like I have seen people doing their PhD work or doing their MPhil work, they are very much concerned about, increasing number of pages in their thesis. Then even for research papers, because you tend to submit your research papers during your PhD work, and you're supposed to publish 1 or 2 as per your university guidelines, research papers. And then people believe that research papers or thesis or dissertation should be as good as bulky it is. No, it should be concise. It should not have any tangential statements.
going this way, that way. It should be focused. It should be well organized, structured. And on top of it, it must be supported, corroborated, substantiated by the evidence that you came across during your research study. Let us shift to the next slide. You can see here, pictorial view I have presented about academic writing. It, as I said, your assumptions do not have much scope in that. You can have a question in your mind. So we do start our research with a hypothesis. But hypothesis, I'm sure in some of your session, you must have come across hypothesis in this webinar itself. And so far as you must have developed the idea, hypotheses are not assumptions. Hypotheses are a tentative solution to the problem of your research. So those hypotheses should have some reason associated with that. Here you can see there are three words that might be looking very close to each other in its meaning: logical, reasonable, rational. I'm sure if you take the help of Google, you can understand the difference between these three. Almost identical, similar words. Logical. Your writing should be logical. It should be based on the logic. Logic relates to mathematics. 2 plus 2 is 4. There is no scope of 2 plus 2 becoming 5. So it should be based on factual evidence, and the progression should be in a very reasonable manner. When we say it should be reasonable, then whatever you produce in your academic writing should have scope of explanation. So reasonable, being reasonable has a meaning of ability to be explained. And then rational, what you are producing, you should be very, very, able to judge about what is right, what is wrong. And obviously, unless and until you take a systematic approach of conducting research, you cannot be rational. Here again comes organized and systematic. Both terms again look similar in meaning, but no. Organized means you are organized. Whatever content you are presenting, you presenting in an organized way. It should not be scattered here or there. It should have a logical progression attached with it. But when we say it should be systematic, then by that we mean being systematic means systematic comes from word system. So every discipline has its own system of conducting research. Every discipline has its own system of carrying out research, progressing in research. And for that, if you have done your research in a systematic manner, then you need to present that in a systematic manner as well. And what we stated earlier, I have discussed non-fiction. So that is there, that is a part of, that is specificity of the academic writing. Let us see the next slide. And this would be the same. Next one, as I stated, as I just discussed, that it should be clear, concise. When I say clear, so there should not be ambiguity in your words. There should not be any confusion in your words. When I say concise, being concise means there should not be unnecessary set of words associated with the concept that you are going to put up. No need. If any concept, if your research result can be explained in one paragraph, there is no need to express that in 5 pages. I've seen one of my friends did his PhD in human resource management from IIT Kharagpur in merely, I guess it was 90 pages, 90 pages. It looks unbelievable because in PhD, unless and until we have the volume of our PhD work, so bulky, it should be 300, 350, 400. I mean, see, these are very, very typical, very interesting notion associated with the kind of research work we do and the kind of thesis we present, we produce. When I say concise, being concise, when I could just see half of the sentence of a question that just popped up before me on the screen, what should be the number of pages? I don't think number of pages can justify your research work. If you are able to conclude your research and conclude your presentation in a manner that involves everything and that clarifies everything, you're starting from the research question that generated in your mind, starting from the research objectives that was an outcome of the research question. And if you are able to present all those things, no need to worry about the number of pages. If it gets completed in 150 pages, if it gets completed in 100 pages, fine. Don't worry. See, if you are doing a work on, say, an epistemic relationship between teacher and student, the learner, the knower, and the one who helps her or him in knowing. That epistemic relationship need not have all Upanishads, all Vedas, all Western philosophy to be produced, to be included there. You can just give a reference of that. So don't worry about the number of pages. Particularly, I don't believe, as a teacher, as a research supervisor, I don't believe in, adding number of pages in your research. So don't worry about number of pages. If your PhD work gets completed in 100 pages, fine, but it should have all the elements of your work. It should be focused. And as I said, even just a couple of minutes back, it should be evidence-based. You don't add in your PhD work your assumptions, your imaginations. No. Since your academic writing in the form of your PhD work, in the form of your dissertation, in the form of your research paper is based on your research study, so it must be based on the evidence that you have gathered through the process of your research study. So that is it. That is it. Next slide. We can see the documents where academic writing is used. You can just have a look. I mean, even on mobile, you can have this look, or your desktop or laptop can have a better view of what I have tried to, summarize. These are few documents where academic writing is used. Your dissertation and thesis written for advanced degrees such as MPhil or PhD, or an abstract of a long document. Sometimes you need to, there are places where you are supposed to write a synopsis or the summary of your research work. So that abstract even has, you need to do this academic writing, then book reviews, review of related literature, your research proposal that you begin with for your research study, research reports, then what you write for research journals or papers, scientific papers. Then there are essays, academic essays, not literary essays. Yeah, very true. There is one question, though I believe that I would address those questions at the end. But yeah, review of related literature, one person has asked, and there is a component here in review of literature where academic writing is used. See, review of related literature is very important, very important. Why do you do your research study? Why do you do your MPhil or PhD, doctoral study? You do in any university, you consult its ordinance, its PhD ordinance. You see, the purpose of MPhil or PhD is to create knowledge or to add to the body of knowledge that already exists, to redefine the pre-existing knowledge. And for doing that, you need to first you need to first have an idea of what kind of studies have so far been taken up by different people. What kind of research studies are there with a kind of with their own outputs. So this is very important. This is very important. Unless and until you have an idea of, because if you don't do reviews, if you don't do review of related literature, then there is a chance of your work getting repeated. So in research, you should not repeat what already has been done. So this is very important. This is very important. Review of related literature helps you in finding the gaps, the areas that you have chosen for your study. If you will have an idea of what kind of research studies have been carried out, then you can match those findings with the kind of research questions that you have in your mind. And if you see that all those research questions are aptly being answered by the previous research studies, then you do not need to go ahead with the kind of research questions that are generated in your mind. Only if you find there is a gap, only if you find that the kind of research questions that are there in your mind do not have an answer in the previously done research works, then you have a gap. This is called a research gap. And to bridge that gap, you take up the research with the kind of research questions that you have in your mind. So research review of related studies is very important, very important. That gives you a clear insight of what you are expected to do, what you are supposed to do. You should not repeat what has already been conducted, been done. So that is why it is important. Let us see. We'll discuss about it more. Let us go to the next slide. See the types of academic writing. What kind of academic writing we can have, or the nature. This relates to next slide. On the next slide, yeah, very good. So on this slide, you can see this delineates, this tries to indicate about the nature of academic writing. How can you write the research output? So one is descriptive, one is analytical, another is persuasive, and the another type of academic writing is critical. Let us take up this first, descriptive. What is descriptive academic writing? Descriptive, as it relates to the basic term, it describes. Your writing, when your writing describes the facts, phenomena, summary. So this descriptive academic writing gives us information about our sample, our research field, about the area. It gives us facts. So in a way, this is a summary of an article or a report of an experiment. This is descriptive, where everything is described. Fine. This involves identification, reporting, recording, summarizing, and defining. So this is what is called descriptive academic writing. Anything, I mean, see, there is no difference between one academic writing and another academic writing, because all these are part of academic writing. So in a PhD thesis, you must have a descriptive tone, you must have analytical dimension, you must have persuasive dimension, you must have critical dimension. But there are certain theses where any of these may be missing. I can't say, because there are many types of research studies and its presentation in a different way. So the descriptive writing involves description of facts and phenomena. Analytical writing, let us see on the next slide. Analytical writing involves descriptive writing. You have described everything, plus in addition to descriptive writing, you need to put reorganized facts and information which are described into categories, groups, parts, types, or relationships. So in analytical writing, this is slightly a next phase of progression of writing, we can say. Description is at the basic level. Analytical is description plus categorization of facts into groups based on identical nature or relation or anything. So it involves analysis, comparing with other facts and information, contrasting with other facts and information, anything that you are putting up. You need to, once you are analyzing, you start analyzing, then you will compare it with similar kind of phenomena. How it is, compared to this, what is the basic difference? Then what are the contrasts? What are the contrasting elements? How two or more concepts that you are putting forth related to each other? And then you examine the nature of concepts that you are putting up. So this analysis involves all these things. This involves, for being analytical, you need to be, have clear planning. Then you need to have done brainstorming about facts and ideas. And then see, analysis involves, why do you analyze things? You analyze to understand it more in depth of the concept, more in depth of the kind of studies or kind of phenomena that you are trying to understand. Yeah, I'm coming to that point, Mr. Atri. You can just see on slide different type of analytical studies that we take up. This involves flowchart, this can involve diagrams or tables to clarify things, to clarify relationship between two terms, two concepts, to categorize them, to have a better idea. On the next slide, we can see the third type of writing that we have discussed, persuasive. What is persuasive? While analytical writing was descriptive plus certain elements, this persuasive comes with your own set of ideas, your own set of notions, one step further than analytical writing. That means this writing has all the features of analytical writing, and analytical writing itself has a feature of descriptive writing. So persuasive writing is in information plus reorganizing the information with the addition of one's own point of view. One's own point of view means what after the research that you conducted and the output result you feel you have achieved. Now, what is your perspective? What is your point of view about the kind of research report that you are producing? So here, persuasive means you are putting forth your own point of view along with what you have described, what you have analyzed, and now what is your mind saying about that result. So this is all. This is in all such essays, in all such academic writing, you need to have at the end your own set of notion, set of ideas. One question is, yeah, very true, very true. This review of studies, if one is conducting research on a very new concept, very true. Generally what happens, there is a set of notion attached with the kind of research studies that we do, that in our research thesis, we should have a separate chapter in the name of review of related literature. And your question seems to be, stemmed out from that concern itself, that if you're conducting a research on a very, very, very new thing, very new idea, and there is nothing available as any literature related to that particular concept, that chapter will be missing from your thesis. Don't worry. There is no need. If you have such a good idea, such a brilliant, such an innovative element of concept. But yeah, in social sciences, in education, we deal with human behaviors. We deal with, teacher-taught relationship. We deal with academic environment, teaching, learning environment. Any new concept may be having its own specificity, but certain studies related to human experiences, related to human life, related to human endeavors, must be associated with the kind of concept that you are taking up for your research studies. I don't say here that it should be 100% in match, in tune with the kind of concept that you are taking up. No. But see, what we are going to study about in our research. We are educators, teacher educators or teachers. We are not going to invent any minute particle of neutron, proton, electron, or positron, or something like that. We are going to see what are the changes in human behaviors in a particular set of situation. What are our perception about a particular person, a teacher or a student, or the learning process? Everything relates to our discipline, which associates with it human behavior, human interaction. So definitely there should be some association, if not in cent% alignment with the kind of concept that you have taken up. But at least there must be something to provide you certain insight that you can refer to as related literature, and you can write, you can read first. And then you see if that reading has generated some insight to help you proceed towards your research work, then you can refer to that. Otherwise, no need, fine. But I don't think, see, this is a very huge set of activities that we deal with. And I'm sure you will get some or the other literature for that. You may not find any PhD work having been conducted before on the kind of theme that you have taken, but at least some written material must be there. Maybe, you can discuss it with on a personal basis also. If you don't find anything, you ask me, take my email, and then you ask me, I'll provide you the idea, maybe. But yeah, definitely, if not PhD work, if not MPhil work, there must be some writing. There must be some other form of insights, of knowledge, information available related to the concept that you have taken up. So anyway, so this is what is your answer from my side. Yeah, I can stand by you, I can stand with you to say that if you don't find very substantial in terms of related literature, maybe with the consent of your research supervisor, you cannot have, you may not have a chapter specifically attributed to review of related literature. There may not be any need for that. But at least you can have sufficient reading materials to develop some insight related to your research. And see, coming back to the point of academic writing, the nature of academic writing here, our academic writing should be persuasive. Persuasive means persuade. We persuade. If you are, producing your academic writing means you are producing your point, you are putting up your point of view, and your point of view again should be convincing. Convincing. You may not be able to convince 100% about your findings to everyone, but yeah, there must be an element of persuasion in your writing, because that is not a fictional writing, that is not just a self-assumed writing, that is based on, if you have done your research work with due honesty, with due integrity, then you must be having solid, substantiated evidence on the basis of what you are producing the result. So you are writing something which should have in its nature persuasive element to help reach one's, on the next slide you can see, to help reach one's own point of view on the facts of ideas. It should be, the reading other research point of view on the topic is needed. Now, your question bounce back to me is, if there is no research work done, at least something has been written, at least some material, some information must be available. So you must have read others' point of view on those topics. A rational judgment needs to be done to see whose perspective is the most convincing, because this persuasive element involves, how convincing is your statement or your result, what you're going to say about any particular phenomena. Your writing should have patterns in the data, or references should be looked into. Where is this evidence, whether this evidence is strongest or not. I don't say that you need to prove that yours is the only one which is strongest of all. No, but at least the kind of reference, the kind of sample, the kind of studies that you have referred to must be convincing in nature. And only unless and until you produce that, unless and until you refer to that in your discussion. As a researcher, you are not supposed to come up out of blue, come up with an idea. No, I have an idea. Overnight, this idea came to my mind, and this is the truth. This is the fact. No. In academic writing, there is no scope for that. It should be well thought of. It should be well studied, well researched, well analyzed, and then interpretation of those analyses should form your result, should form, and that result will be a part of your academic writing. So this is very important in terms of convincing writing, persuasive writing. So this is something you have to keep in your mind, that your writing should be persuasive. It should be analytical. It should be persuasive. Next slide, we can go. You can see this. To make your writing more convincing, more persuasive, you need to develop an argument in favor of what you are going to say through your academic writing. You need to list different reasons of your point of view. If you are putting up your point of view, those point of view, as I just said, it should not have come out of blue, from nowhere, all of a sudden. No, it should have different reasons. You list those reasons. Based on this reason, I'm saying this. Based on that reason, I'm saying this. You might have heard of data triangulation. In research, we study what is data triangulation. Why do we do data triangulation? Because if we are in a process of exploring the truth, exploring the reality of a particular phenomena, we are in a process of finding the answer of the research questions that have generated in our mind, we are not just based on one particular source of data. We do collect data from different sources. We match them. We see whether those data gives same kind of result, similar kind of result. If data have similar kind of result, the similarity in the result then we conclude, the kind of result that we have arrived at seems fine, because different data coming from different sources suggests the same answer. That is what is called data triangulation. And this is what is your writing. If that writing is persuasive, bias is removal. I'm coming to that point. I'll come, definitely. I'm finding very interesting and very thankful to the organizers and thankful to the participants who are taking active part. Very good. I'm coming to that point. So you list different reasons. Unless until you have reasons to show, you cannot claim that what you are claiming as truth, you're claiming as result is correct. So you need to list those reasons. You need to think about different types of sources of evidence which you can use to support your point of view. This different type of sources of evidence means those, as I mentioned, just data triangulation, different sources of data. Even in science, some of you must be having done your bachelor's in science, maybe. Since this is not a session where we can have personal introduction, but even in science practicals, you might have seen, if any science students are there in the participant. We are not satisfied with just one reading of any experiment. Even if in chemistry we do titration, we repeat it thrice at least. Even if we use in physics practical any vernier calipers for any physical measurement, we take measurement for 3 times. And then we calculate the average, calculate the mean value of that readings. Why? Because one particular source of information, one particular data is not everything, is not going to provide you the absolute truth. So you need to have different sources of data. And unless and until you have different sources of data, have certain element of similarities, your argument will not be strong. So that is very important for your argument to build up, for your writing to have persuasive element. So that way, your writing should have all these elements. Coming to the next one. For that, you need to accurately summarize all or part of the work. On the next slide, I would request. So, like you can see, we have so far discussed about the nature of academic writing. It should be descriptive, it should be analytical, it should be persuasive. The last one I'm going to discuss is critical. Your academic writing should be critical in nature. What is it to be critical? Every research in persuasive writing, descriptive writing is something there where you produce just the facts and phenomena as it is. Analytical writing is, see, here I would again reiterate, when I am discussing all these concepts in categorized manner, that doesn't suggest that academic writings can have 4 different parts. One academic writing will have only description, another will have only analytical. No. Every academic writing should have all these 4 elements. It is just merely for the sake of understanding the notion. It is like, in our all teacher educators, I would say, we train our B.Ed students for school teaching, but before that, we ask them to take up micro teaching. And we teach individual teaching skills differently, but that doesn't mean that in teaching, they are going to teach those particular skill only. No. So we have, for that, all those individual, each of those teaching skills are clubbed into our teaching. Similarly, here, every academic writing will have all these 4 elements, and yeah, there is question, how much of your ideas can be presented in academic writing to authenticate your research? Vidya Satish, how much of your ideas? There's no quantity or quantum, my idea or your idea or any researcher's idea, unless and until that particular idea is corroborated, substantiated with strong evidence, this will not authenticate your research writing or research result. And for that, you might have gone through all these 6 days, different types of quantitative research. Even qualitative researches have certain types, certain typicalities of substantiating ideas. And in quantitative, you have lots of statistics for that. And for everything, even statistics come only when you come up with evidence. So unless and until as researcher, your idea finds aligned, substantiating, corroborating evidence, you cannot have your writing to be called as authenticated writing, authentic writing. So to be something authentic must have evidence. And if you have evidence, then just a couple of minutes back, I stated about data triangulation. It should not be just a single element, single evidence. Single evidence might be deceiving in nature sometimes. But if you find 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, many, to substantiate your claim exactly the way you are seeing, then you can say that whatever you are putting up is authentic. If you don't, see, assuming one situation, if you mix 2 molecules of hydrogen with 1 molecule of oxygen, it becomes water. 2 plus 1, H2 and O. And this would be applicable everywhere. But in humanities, social sciences, education, such kind of situation you do not find. But at least you should have, because that H2, a combination of H2 plus O would always yield water, be it India, be it USA, be it Canada, be it England, wherever. And every time. But human behavior is very unpredictable, very unpredictable. You cannot claim that one particular type of human response or reaction would be the same in similar situation if you create this situation some 5 years after, henceforth. Or if you create this situation in UK or on Moon or Mars. No, it is quite unpredictable. But at least in human behavior, human sciences, on a normal ground, in a normal situation, you have some, reasonable number of similar situations. Based on that, you generalize. Because generalization is one thing that is a major work of research work. Though in qualitative research, we don't believe in generalizing the idea, because generalization comes only with numbers, quantity. But apart from number, if there is some opinion of a majority of people, then would be certain opinion about those people who are less in numbers. But we cannot say that their perception is wrong. This differentiation of right and wrong is a very difficult thing to judge. So anyway, being critical. Critical means what? If we say that our writing is critical, being critical, let me tell you, all of you are learned person here. You must be knowing being critical doesn't mean being negative. Critical is not being negative. Make it clear. So critical is this element. You need to accurately summarize all part of the work. Being critical means look for various ways to break your point of view into parts. Just coming on the next slide, you can see, while persuasive writing requires you to have your own point of view on issue of topic, critical writing requires you to consider at least 2 points of view, including your own. So when we say being critical, we cannot be critical in isolation. We cannot be critical in space. when we say we are being critical, so then our idea, we can have our own critical idea of our own point of view. So if your writing is to be critical, then your writing should have your point of view, and then it must have another point of view. What you are going to say as the result of your research study, and on a similar thing, what others have said about it, what others have achieved about it. Then you compare, contrast, and then you can be critical. You may explain a researcher's interpretation or argument, and then evaluate the merits of the argument, or give your own alternative interpretation. If, see, naturalists say that the reality exists in nature, whereas idealism believes that reality exists in our mind. Here you can be critical about this person, or this school of thought says reality is in nature. This school of thought says reality is in our nature. Now we have to be critical about what are the merits in their statements, what are the merits in our statement. And see, I have given just a tangential, just a broad example of something. If you are being critical, then you must be having many different points of view, and then you relate them, compare them. So that's all. Example of critical writing assignments include a critique of a journal article or a literature review that identifies the strengths and weaknesses of existing research. The kind of instruction for critical writing include critique, debate, disagree, evaluate. Let me tell you again, let me repeat it again. Being disagree doesn't mean that I'm negative or you are negative. If you disagree with any particular thought or notion, then you must be having your own idea about that thing. If somebody has suggested some explanation of a phenomena or an explanation about a particular set of human behavior, and you don't agree with that, then you must be having your own explanation of that particular phenomena or particular human behavior. And both, even yours and even other person's explanations should have strong base of evidence. Unless and until you have, you cannot be critical. Moving on to the next slide. You need to accurately summarize all or part of the work. This could include identifying the main interpretations, assumptions, or methodology. You should have an opinion about the work. Appropriate types of opinion could include pointing out some problems with it, proposing an alternative approach that would be better, unless and until you have, or this is what I just said, unless and until you have an alternative approach, alternative explanation, alternative solution to what other has suggested, you cannot be critical. You need to have, ability to defend your opinion, your point of view. And then you must provide evidence for your point of view, depending on the specific assignment of the discipline. Different types of evidence may be appropriate, such as logical reasoning, a reference to authoritative sources or research data. Coming to the next. Being critical means it requires strong writing skills. Strong writing skills. On page 15, you can see. You need to thoroughly understand the topic and the issue. You need to develop an essay structure and paragraph. And the structure should allow you to analyze different interpretations and develop your own argument supported by evidence. Now, these were the certain dimensions of academic writing that I was discussing so far. Another set of characteristics associated with academic writing is, we have already said that. I will not discuss it in detail, but you can have a look of the characteristics associated with academic writing is, it should be formal, stated earlier itself. It should be explicit. It should have element of clarity. It should be precise. It should be well structured. It should be unbiased. Just now I saw a question popped up. How could we make our research unbiased? Surely, for a research to be unbiased, you as a researcher need to be very careful. If you are doing, say, if you're doing a qualitative study or a quantitative study, you should start with an unbiased mind. If your thought process will be skewed towards a certain ideas, then your explanation, then your research process itself and the result obviously will be biased. So your writing, which would obviously be based on your research work, should be unbiased. Unbiased. When we say unbiased, even our own opinion, mere assumption should not be a part of that. Only what we have found through the process of our result, based on the evidence that we have gathered, and while having done systematic analysis as per the discipline of our study. Discipline of knowledge. Say, if I am from teacher education discipline, then this discipline itself has its own set of, rules, methods, laws. All of you might have studied about paradigm. So every paradigm has its own set of rules, laws, theory, methods, methodology, techniques, tools, way of analysis. So it should be clearly based on those things. It should not have what you feel is good. So that emotional thing should not be a part of your research writing. It should be unbiased in that way. Then comes an element, academic writing should be responsible. When we say it should be responsible, means our academic writing, as we know, is based on the research, and our research is based on the data collected and analysis done. We should not manipulate the data to arrive at the result that we have already framed in our mind. No. This research is a very, very responsible activity, research process. In the blur of moment, on a lighter note, we say that, research is done for getting a degree. True to some extent, but not 100% agree with this only. Research is not something to just get a degree. Research is something, particularly PhD research, or any kind of, if you write a research, if you conduct a research project and write a paper, then that research must be authentic, must be honestly done, must have academic integrity involved with it. It should be responsible. If you refer to any piece of literature, any piece of study, you must be accountable to acknowledge that. You must be accountable to acknowledge that. You must be accountable while producing your result supported by the evidence. Those evidence should not be created by you. Those evidence should be existing. So these are the kind of responsible behavior that is expected from us. And unless and until we write something, while writing, we must be very, very sensitive, must be very, very careful about referring to anything, picking up any certain piece of information, acknowledging those persons. I will not say on this platform here what kind of research studies are being carried out, how data collection process is being carried out. I would not comment on that, but it should be a responsible thing. It must be a responsible thing. There was a question of whether PhD work is having 5 chapters or 4 chapters. So, number of chapters are not important to me. Exactly, chapterization is done. First and foremost thing is that this is a university requirement that varies from one university to other university. If your university says that these are the types of chapterization that you need to do, you conform to do. You don't have a choice over there. Fine. But being structured doesn't mean having chapters as being suggested. Being structured means your argument is developed logically. Your argument is developed logically. You are not putting in your thesis your result first and then your process of data collection afterwards. No. Being structured means structure has its own, like structure of a building. You don't cast roof first and pillar afterwards, or the foundation at last. Being structured means there is a process. And unless and until you follow that process, your structure, your building, your thesis will not have a proper shape. So when I say being structured, that doesn't mean this. Maybe one particular building doesn't have an awning. Another set of building must be having an awning. One building has a lawn, another is just a flat. But that will not say, that will not prove that those are not structured. Structure has its own certain different elements. So about this, I will say, conform to your university norms only. That is it. That question was related to, when I said that this chapter, that was related to the kind of, if somebody asked that if the review of related literature is not available, what should we do then? Though I said that reviews are always there, to do review literatures are always available. Whether those are PhD work or not, that is a different thing. Anyway, coming back to responsible. Being responsible, I have said, be honest, be academical, have academic integrity, and then your research should be supported. Your academic writing must be supported by the evidence. Must be supported by the evidence. For that, it should be formal, it should be explicit. As I say, on next slide, you can see being formal means formal discipline specific vocabulary must be used. For being formal, your academic writing to be formal means it should not have colloquial expression. It should not have abbreviated forms of verbs like we write in our WhatsApp messages. Our PhD, our academic writing, our research paper should not have that kind of vocabulary. What we write in our text messages or WhatsApp messages. No, our academic writing should have formal structure of words, formal piece of sentences involved. And emotional languages. I've seen people, they start their academic writing and the kind of emotions and the kind of unnecessary adjectives being used. No need to do that. It should be clear, focused, concise, and addressing to the core theme of your piece of work that you have taken up. Then it should be explicit. Explicit means clarity of text. What you're going to say should be communicated clearly. It should have logical connection among different parts. What you have intended must be expressed through your writing. No florid language. No need to put up flowery, florid language. Sentences must be connected in a clear way by means of signal words, phrases that show the logical organization of texts. Next one. It should be precise. Sentences, terms, dates, figures, data must be precise and text must be focused. In academic writing, you need to write in clear terms. Like if your work is based on certain research, then you need to give precise number. It should just avoid giving general terms like a lot of people. I've seen many things. This result is based on many observations. No, not many. Exact number of observations, not many things, not a lot of people. So your sample size should be clearly stated. Be sure of the meaning of a word before using it. Then it should be structured. The information must be presented in a logical way and ideas must be developed clearly. And as I said, it must be unbiased. Being unbiased means academic writing intends to inform or to produce reasonably persuasive arguments, reasonably convincing arguments. Then Your writing should try to convince using arguments that can be evaluated. It should not be illogical. It should be, strengthened with the kind of argument that can be evaluated. And then only it becomes reliable. For being reliable, you should have the notion of reliability itself suggests that if it is replicated in some other circumstances, it should be giving similar result. So whatever kind of argument you are providing in support of your writing, it must be able to be evaluated. On next slide. To achieve such a goal, one needs to use language and arguments that express neutrality. And unless your position as a researcher is discussed here as necessary, generally, your own idea as necessary, your own ideas and feelings should not be evident. So whatever you are putting up in your academic writing, it should be based on evidence. Your own, like you as a researcher, we should not claim that whatever we are stating is absolute truth. Whatever you are stating in your academic writing should have evidence. So being responsible in academic writing means evidence, you provide evidence, you manage information ethically, no data manipulation. It should be plagiarism free, and you should be acknowledging to the sources that you have referred to. Okay, this plagiarism should be considered as a serious crime. Coming to the structure of your academic writing. PhD, I said, on the next slide, you can see PhD, I said, your structure of PhD or MPhil dissertation would be based on your university norms. But otherwise, in general, in writing paper, how do you write first? Abstract. Abstract comes first, then introduction, then main body, and then conclusion. Obviously, the abstract is the ultimate result of your ultimate piece of your finding, presented in a most summarized form. So that is what is called abstract. In any research paper that we tend to get published, we first put abstract. That should not be more than 10% of your total piece of writing. Maximum half page. Try to put in half page. That should be the form of abstract. Then comes introduction. That relates to, that introduction also can have certain elements of the summary of the form. And then your body should have background, literature review, methods, results, discussion of those results, and finally conclusion. So this is how we can structure our academic writing. Obviously, in PhD thesis, we don't write abstract in thesis in the beginning. We produce it, we submit it separately from PhD thesis. The PhD thesis starts with introduction. This is a research paper, structure of a research paper. So here there is a slight difference. Coming to the next, your abstract, what all should have in your abstract? Obviously, your topic in the beginning, then problem, methods used, samples chosen, results, and interpretation. So that should form your abstract. This abstract should not be longer than half page. As I said, abstract is written after paper writing is over. It should have keywords. The more complex the research paper is, the more exact data should the abstract contain. And remember one thing, be sure about that from different journals when it is stated that write in this much words, abstract is not counted, included in the general word count. That is a separate thing. So, but even then, abstract should just comprise cover half of the page, A4 size page if you're writing on. That's it. So that is what is the writing. Coming to the summary part, I'm coming to the summary. I'm seeing the clock running fast. The needle of the clock is running fast. So I'm in a mood of concluding thing. Your summary should have, on the next slide, you can see summary contains more expanded information about the research. You, even at the time of submission of your PhD thesis, you are expected to submit your summary. So this should include expanded information about the research. Generally, it does not contain numbers and exact data, but it can have some background and logical chain of argument doing the research. It should present interpretation of results in more detail, because summary is something that by reading that, by going through the summary, one can have idea of what exactly you have done and what is your finding. See here, I have started with the abstract. I have put summary first, then I'm writing about introduction, because my presentation has a different plan. This is not an academic writing. So here I have not taken care of structure, but what I have said is abstract should be like this, summary should be like this, your introduction should have main topic, main problems. Main problems means research questions, main studies used initially. It should not be, review of related literature, specific topic, chapter. Even in your introduction, certain studies used should be there, because that suggests how this idea developed, how the research questions stemmed out from your thinking. Then your introduction may have hypothesis or reference questions. And obviously, reference may be included if needed. References here means not the reference writing. In-text citations. In-text citations. I wish if I had more time, then I would have explained, though I'm sure most of you must be knowing how in-text citation is done, how referencing is done. So these are the things where we do all these things. On the next, I will say, you just see, you need to write direct, you need to write a clear piece of words in progression. But at the same time, you avoid writing direct quotations. Avoid, very far, like sentences like gender. I've just written an example. Gender discrimination is serious problems in Middle Eastern countries. No, do not need to write this. Get straight to the point. If you're writing about the women empowerment or financial empowerment, financial well-being of students, then don't need to write gender discrimination is a serious problem in Middle Eastern countries or so, this or that. No, get straight to the point. Like scientific research in the field of sociology shows that financial well-being of women in India depends on level of their education. This is what you can start with. So simply, you can go ahead with that. On the next is how your in academic writing, in thesis, body, as I said, abstract, introduction, body, and then summary. Summary I have already explained. In your body, it should have background, that should contain history of the issue, that should contain explanation of the importance of the issue. Literature review contains main approaches, results, and interpretations provided in related current books. Your literature, RRL, should not be presented like annotated bibliography where writer mentions the topic and credibility of source. I'm trying to give an answer to one of the participants who wrote how review of related literature should be used. In review of related literature, first thing is that you need to pick only those studies which are directly related to yours. Then you just need not write, okay, this is the title, this is the researcher's name, this is year. No, it should not be like that. Rather, it should be presented in the form of the thinking process that you undergo. So in RRL, most important is the presentation of content in connection to the problem under research. It should not just have that first line name, second line researcher, third line year. No. And then methods are described as per the research design, and results section presents pure results, data, calculation, findings received during the study, during the research. Last thing I would come, the process of academic writing. On the next slide, you can see I have tried to include what I personally have experienced, and I'm sure most of our colleagues from academic fraternity, undergo this process. When we start writing, when we start planning to write, the process, no, after discussion is fine. I have already discussed. After the process of academic writing, I'm talking about on next slide, I guess. We have planning for writing. For planning of writing, we generally sit, either we are on bed, in chair, we start thinking when to start, when to write the first words. I'm sure everybody undergoes that type of feeling. Don't worry, nobody is going to judge you. Write whatever you feel like, you start writing. Free writing, I said. Free writing means don't think that this is going to be evaluated by others. Whatever comes to your mind, you start writing. Using primary evidences or published sources, whatever comes, whatever you come across, you just do that. Try to, take a note of reference. Whatever you see, wherever, you just write down. In our days, we used to have yellow cards or some cards where we used to, note down wherever any book we would see, we would, any particular paragraph or area, we would write the name of the author, book, the number of page number, and then content. Today, it's very easier. You have facilities, mobile always with you, computer at home or office. So referencing work should be done properly, systematically. Then structure the sequence, introduction, main body, conclusion, as I said. One thing is that procrastination. Procrastination is very, very serious concern over all through this process. We keep thinking, yeah, I will do it. I will do it in another 5 days. Until 4th day, till 5th day, we keep thinking, yeah, this is going to be done now. And this procrastination is writer's major hurdle. So we need to get rid of that. And that is the process. Free writing is the ultimate solution. You start writing without thinking that your study is whether somebody is going to judge. Nobody is going to judge your writing. First, you start writing. And then after writing, you see, even if it is a crap, even Newton said sometimes that on his table, he had, 5-6 dustbin with it. So many pieces of papers would be, spoiled writing, and then he would throw away in dustbin. Don't worry about that. We do not need to write on physical paper. You have laptop with you, computer, anything. Don't worry. Don't procrastinate. Start writing. Whatever comes to your mind. Reading carefully, critically. Critical reading that I discussed in the previous slides. Read critical. Not just stick to one opinion, one reference, one set of solutions. Take 2-3 different points of view and then analyze, then compare, then develop your own voice. Developing your own voice is very important. And then summarize, paraphrase, and noting down direct quotation, being critical. These are the elements, these are the processes where you can go ahead with. Next, let us go to the next slide. I'll conclude with that. The process of academic writing involves intertextuality. Intertextuality is when you start writing, you make connections between texts and putting forward your own understanding. You study different papers, you study different things, and then do try to develop your own understanding, your own voice. And at last, I have mentioned it, finding your voice. This is very difficult, but very important, very important. Unless until you find your own voice, your own opinion, merely following what others have written already, just changing a few words is not going to help. So intertextuality means keep making connections with different papers, different articles, different set of words. And then you develop your own idea. Unless and until you develop your own idea, it is not going to help. So, and when your idea will develop, you read, even conflicting on the same issue, conflicting notions, conflicting results. Then you structure an argument. your own argument, and then substantiate that argument with careful, evidence, thoughts. Your own argument should have careful, well-reasoned, well-thought-of elements. Then you will find your voice. And finally, you will conclude your writing that way. And then comes referencing, which I had requested, but I see I'm being a teacher, I try to stick to the time. It is already 5:30, I guess. I was given 4 to 5:30. Yes, so referencing, I hope Dr. Ansari is there.
Yes.
So the valedictory session is about to start now, isn't it, Dr. Ansari?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So I will conclude here. That's why I say referencing is one part. Sometimes, if given an opportunity, I will discuss about, because I feel referencing itself is a matter of one whole, program of workshop. One whole workshop should be given for referencing. Sometimes, maybe in future, I will do referencing related thing. You can ask on your I believe this is on live on YouTube, so you can ask, which I'll try to answer. Referencing recently has been done on this American Psychological Association that we follow in discipline of education. They have come up with 7th edition of referencing. They have eliminated certain things that they considered it unnecessary. So referencing is something that should be informant. And referencing is important because that says, that suggests, that explains that you have referred to these studies, these research works. That referencing itself is a substantiating element, corroborating element for your academic writing. So referencing is very, very important, very important. Maybe next time we can deal with referencing. And sometimes referencing, stick to 7th edition now. Earlier, so far it was 6th edition. You can, as your university suggests, 6th edition of APA style of referencing is in, practice now. 7th has just come up. You can go ahead with 7th, and we complete our academic writing, because the last part is the most important. I remember one of my senior teachers, I went to him with my research paper. So the first thing he did was he turned the last page and he started reading the reference, because referencing itself gives an idea of what kind of studies are there in the background of your work. So referencing is very important, very important. Apply the method suggested by your academic system, university, and follow that guidelines. If anything related to this, I am available. You can ask question. I am there to give answer, even afterwards, even after this workshop is over. With that, I conclude here. Thank you very much once again, organizers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Dr. Thakur, you kept the participant engaged during your presentation, and also you have answered around 8 to 10 questions, sir. Still, you would like to take few questions, sir?
I can, if you allow me, if your
sir,
program
one or two questions and you answer, and then we will proceed to the next part. So okay. One question is how to get mastery over academic writing. Please suggest some techniques to develop creative writing related to writing educational articles.
See, 2 words came, which I first argued. Creative writing is one thing, academic writing is another thing. Creative writing is something which can have your own imaginations, your fancies. Academic writing is something which is very typical, very formative, very structured. And regarding mastery, first thing I suggested, get rid of your procrastination. All of us are, grappling with this issue, procrastination. We think we'll start, but we don't do that. So start free writing, and then read good articles, good papers. That's it.
Fine. Sir, we will take the last question. The question says, do we have to write report in layman's language or in technical language?
No, it should not. It must not be in layman's language. It must be in technical terms. That is what is the requirement. That makes your discipline good, worthy.
Fine, sir. Fine. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you.
Now,
Thank you.
Yes, sir. At the outside, let me propose the formal vote of thanks. I take this privilege to propose the formal vote of thanks. First of all, I would like to thank our resource person, Dr. Gopal Krishna Thakur, for his comprehensive overview of the academic writing. Dr. Thakur clarified in a simple way about academic writing. He emphasized writing as a process of presenting ideas in a rational and logical way. It should be clear, concise, focused, structured, and backed up by the evidence. Its purpose is to help the reader's understanding. He further classified documents where academic writing is used and its types such as descriptive, analytical, persuasive, critical with suitable examples. He discussed the characteristics of academic writing. He also tried to highlight on the structure of research paper, which include 3 important points. First point, abstract, which should be very short and concise. Summary may be optional. Second point about introduction, which introduces topic of research, main problem, main studies used, may have hypothesis or research question. References may be included if needed. Direct quotation should be avoided in this section. Avoid generic information. Avoid introduction by approaching the topic from far and get straight to the point. Third point focused on the body, that is background or literature review, method, results, discussion, and conclusion. Finally, sir concluded with the process of academic writing. He also clarified the queries of the participant during the presentation. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. The event of this nature wouldn't be possible without the active involvement, cooperation, and coordination by all concerned.